What's going on, guys? My name is RagingRaptor and I welcome you to a new World of Tanks video. And today we are going to have a look at the SuperTest changes of the IS-4 branch, because there are once again quite some things Wargaming decided to change around, most importantly being the tier 10 vehicle, the IS-4, getting some well-deserved changes. In my opinion, some even being a little bit too much, but then again, I'm going to show them to you. You decide for yourself what you think as well, and let me know in the comment section below. I'm also leaving in the iCard the video to the E100 and the E5 as soon as it is released. And lastly, if you enjoy the content like this, let me know in the comment section below and tell me if it is good or not. If it's bad, I'm always happy to have some feedback. Now, let's jump into the IS-4. As last time, I'm going to have a look at the armor in just a second before we are going to have a look at the general stats of the tank. And the first thing you will notice is that Wargaming decided to improve the stabilization. This is, in my opinion, something very important, as the current gun stabilization, especially during the movement of the IS-4, is incredibly bad. And this is also actually something I personally suggested back in the days of how I would buff the IS-4. It is from 0.25 to 0.18, and turret rotation will be from 0.08 to 0.06. Those values, in my personal opinion, make the IS-4 much more convenient to play and much more easy to play. To point this out, those values are almost the same as what the 279 has. The 279 has on the moving part 0.17 or not 0.18. Pretty darn close, and turret rotation is exactly the same. So if you want to feel like, or if you want to see how the IS-4 feels, play the Object 279, because this is how the accuracy will most likely feel. Then Wargaming decided to buff its turret suspension traverse of 26 to 30 degrees per second, and the turret traverse speed from 22 seconds to 25 seconds. To that, we are getting a buff of the reload time from 12 to 10.5 seconds. Again, this buffs the tank to almost 279's level of DPM. It's still a little bit underneath because 279 has a stock reload of 10.07, but in my opinion, it's something incredibly important. Also, now as we have a change to the reload time, I would suggest to Wargaming to give the IS-4 some more rounds, because this is a breaking point sometimes in very long and very carry heavy games where you are simply running out of ammo. Another amazing thing is the aim time will get buffed from 2.9 to 2.5 seconds, making the IS-4's gunnery much more convenient. However, Wargaming decided to counteract this a little bit by removing accuracy, 0.38 to 0.42. Not really liking this change. I don't understand why exactly this had to be happened. I would say the gun accuracy could stay at 0.38 and the tank would feel wonderful. But now let's have a look at the armor. The point where I have to say maybe Wargaming is overdoing it a little bit. So when we have a look at the armor right now, the most obvious things will be, and I'm going to talk about this just right now, is the turret roof. The turret roof will be changed. It used to be 30 millimeters thick, meaning every single gun above 90 millimeters of caliber would have overmatch, which means that basically everything in this small strip can overmatch you at tier 10, which is obviously very punishing. However, for that, you don't really have big cupolas, if I am not mistaken. The cupolas are fairly smallish and are 140 millimeters thick, so they are not that... They are pretty hard to hit, in my personal opinion. However, Wargaming decided to say that it's all gone, the turret roof weak spot is gone, and I have a little bit of an issue with that, because I kind of feel like this may or may not make the IS-4 a little bit too strong with the already mentioned gun stats buff. Again, this is just a gut feeling I have, and this is my personal opinion. When it comes to the armor buff of the hull, I think those are totally valid and those are incredibly well thought out. Because I do think it is annoying when the IS-4 is, for example, angling, and still people are just spamming through your upper front plate without even gold ammunition. So I do think those 317 millimeters of penetration, millimeters of armor, effective armor on the upper front plate sound like a very, very decent job. However, I do want to point out, first of all, the turret ring was removed. I was at the beginning not really sure what was going on, but I really don't understand it. Seriously, it's like 5 pixels of turret ring, which is 240 millimeters thick, or 230. I really did not think this was necessary, but apparently the turret of the IS-4 will be slightly lowered to remove that turret weak spot. Again, didn't really see why. What I don't really understand is why exactly Wargaming decided to not buff those flanks. Those side scraping plates are, in my opinion, sadly enough, not as strong as they should be, because I still see myself very often receiving a lot of damage just through them with gold ammunition as well as with standard rounds, depending how the angle is. Maybe I am playing the IS-4 too poorly at that point, but I do think that is a little bit of a... I think 10 millimeters more armor wouldn't be big of a deal and would make the IS-4 also more convenient to side scrape off. But again, this is my personal opinion, and this is also my personal feedback to Wargaming when it comes to the armor of the IS-4. And lastly, don't forget the IS-4 has a stock gun. It's a D25T gun, and excuse me, it gets buffed. The standard rounds will be exchanged from 175mm to 217mm APCR rounds, and the premium rounds will be changed from the APCR rounds to heat rounds with 270mm of penetration. Those changes aren't really necessary in the sense of the Wargaming really didn't have to do them. It is more for the other tanks in the line, like the ST-1 and sometimes, yeah, it's for the ST-1 basically. Because if you didn't play the IS-3 beforehand, you sadly enough do not have the BL9, which could help you out with the ST-1. Or rather, is it the BL? No, excuse me. If you didn't play the T10, you don't have the 122 M62 gun, which is the top gun of the ST-1. And the ST-1 then, well, it will get a little bit screwed over with very, very poor penetration. So this is a quality of life, the ST-1. Speaking of ST-1, let's jump to this tank. The ST-1 only gets small changes. Obviously the D25T gun, as already mentioned, will get the same buffs as the gun of the IS-4. When it comes to the 175 to 217 and 217 to 270mm penetration. Again, it's a stock gun. The Top Gun also gained some improvements, most notably 1.2 seconds faster reload time, but also losing accuracy from 0.38 to 0.4. Also, something which is sadly not really understandable yet is where exactly are those improved gun stabilizations? Are they for the Top Gun? Are they for the stock gun? Those are right now the questions which I personally can't answer you yet, and I have myself. I hope that soon-ish we will get more concrete informations. Again, don't forget, I personally still think that Wargaming should, in theory, give us more information quicker. But again, I keep you up to date, and yes, the ST-1 has the BL9. So the changes to the stock gun are purely there to be more convenient for people which do not have yet played the IS-3, because the BL9 is, in my opinion, a gun you, in theory, could work off. It's also a buff, obviously, for the KV-4, which we are going to talk about now. Because the KV-4's D25T gun got the exact same changes to penetration from 175 to 217 and from 217 to 270 with heats. So this is a nice little change in my opinion. Wargaming did well for that. Again, it's a quality of life change for people which newly unlocked this tank. So I think that's a pretty decent thingy. I really think that's a good idea. One thing we still don't know yet is this buff to the D25T gun going to have an effect on tanks like the IS-3? Is it going to have an effect on other tanks, for example like the 112? Or the WZ-111, or the IS-6. Those are like questions right now which I am asking myself. However, I don't think they will go into effect. Then Wargaming also decided to change a little bit the reload time of the gun from 12.1 seconds to 12 seconds, and the aim time will get drastically better from 3.4 to 3, and the accuracy from 0.46 to 0.44. So that's a pretty decent stuff in my opinion. Again, quality of life change for the people which have to play the KV-4 stock. Now to the top gun, the SIS-24. The SIS-24 now also gains a DPM buff from 10.3 to 9 seconds. That is a pretty decent exchange in my opinion. You also get a much quicker aim time of 2.9 to 2.3 seconds, 0.38 accuracy to 0.36, better gun stabilization, and an improved gun mantlet armor. So that is definitely some things the KV-4 definitely needed. I do 100% agree on buffing the gun mantlet, as 180mm are simply not enough for a tank with this slow speed when it is supposed to be a heavy tank. However, I also hope that if the KV-4 gets some buffs, I would really like to hear if the KV-4 Kraslovsky would also get some buffs. In that kind of sense, it suffers from the same issues with a huge gun mantlet, which is just 180mm thick, with a bad DPM, bad accuracy, or not really bad accuracy, but very long aim times and very unstable gun. So that would be also something I would personally look forward to. And lastly, we have the KV-3, which also gets a slight little buff, being a buff to the D25T gun as well. There are no buffs to penetration, probably is even a slight little error right there. I'm not 100% sure what is going to happen because, again, the KV-3 has different guns. It has the D25T, there's the D-2-5-T gun. Everything is a little bit confusing with all those Russian guns. Nevertheless, the KV-3 will get better aim time, better accuracy, and an improved gun mantlet armor. As already mentioned with the KV-4, I do think that this is a very decent change, which I personally 100% can sign my name on. In conclusion, I do think the IS-4 line buffs are pretty on point. I do, however, have some nitpicking points. Again, do you all agree on that the turret roof is as weak as it is? Because when I usually play the IS-4, I don't really have that big of issues when facing enemies. Maybe it is, I simply don't like removal of weak spots. So I know the lower plate is still there, but again, I am a little bit on the cautious side with that part. Second thing which I am not really sure about is why exactly does the ST-1 and the IS-4 need to get more inaccurate, because I don't see really the point in that. And lastly, do we really need more DPM? I know a lot of people which are saying, Raging, I absolutely hate those speed battles, those booster battles, so quick they are gone, and 15-5 in 5 minutes, it's not fun. So now my argument is, do you really think it is better when more tanks have better DPM, making their games on average even faster because the DPM is higher? The same thing will apply to the E5, the same thing applies to the E100 series. It's just a little bit awkward in my opinion. Most changes I think are great, but here I'm just a little bit on my seat. I feel like it might have overdone it a little bit. Again, I personally try, when I am making up those statements, I am not taking tanks like the 279 or the Chieftain as my medium bar or as my level bar. I want to compare this tank to normal tanks, not overperforming tanks, again, as already mentioned, like the 279 or Chieftain. I do personally think those tanks deserve some nerfs. But yeah, this is everything I have for the IS-4 line. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about this line. Do you think it's a good idea? It's great that Wargaming changes them, or do you think there has to be made some changes more? If you're new to the channel and want to keep up to date with World of Tanks related news, then feel free to subscribe. And if you think I can do something better, then let me know in the comment section below with some feedback. My name is RagingRaptor. Thank you all so much for watching. Cheers, and on to the E5 video. And the German version. And the German version of the E5 video. Will be a long day today.